The following is produced by 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content and is sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Hair Care.
Sunlight, wind, water, and even vegetables offer us clean alternatives to emission-heavy fossil fuels. Right now, only 5% of the dams on America's rivers are used to generate power. All that energy is simply rolling down the river, like we are here at the Land Pavilion within Epcot at the Walt Disney World Resort. We must develop renewable energy sources because if we continue pumping oil and shoveling coal out of the earth, we may be digging our own grave. Hi, I'm Ed Begley Jr., and this is today's Environment, where we take a close look at what's being done to solve some difficult issues perplexing our earth. Few resources give us as much as a tree. They purify the air we breathe, provide wood, paper, and other products. If we get more out of the trees we harvest, the less we'll need to cut down. And this next idea may help accomplish that.
Sawdust and wood shavings. Now, most people don't consider them a precious resource. In fact, most people consider them a nuisance, something you have to clean up after working with wood. But this little mound of dust can add up to a mountain of waste.
In the 1950s, this waste would have been burned or dumped in a landfill. But many researchers in the forest products industry refused to be satisfied. They developed a process that allows nearly all of a tree to be used. And today, instead of waste, residual wood from managed forests like these is a valuable resource. Disposing of tonnage used to put landfills under stress and air quality at risk. But now, advancements in engineered wood have given lowly sawdust, shavings, and wood chips a whole new status. This plant and dozens like it in North America recover wood byproducts that could be stuffing landfills and turns them into high-quality particle board and medium-density fiberboard. According to the PBMDF Institute, engineered wood makes up much of today's cabinetry and furniture, and it helps give our environment a new lease on life. Today, over 95% of a tree can be used for either lumber, paper, or engineered wood. That means fewer trees are harvested every year. And in the US and Canada, more than 8 billion tons of residual wood never make it to the landfill. To make engineered wood, sawdust, wood chips, shavings, and even some construction and post-consumer wood waste, like pallets, get fed through a mill for processing. The wood gets reduced to uniform sizes and combined with adhesive resins as computers monitor the progress and quality at every stage. A thick, long mat results, which then gets compressed by intense heat and high pressure into a uniform, durable panel of either particle board or medium-density fiberboard. Constant testing helps ensure quality. Strength and physical properties, screw holding ability, and resistance to warping are constantly checked and monitored.
When you consider that a mountain of waste can be transformed into fine cabinets and furniture, the process not only spares our forests, it also helps save our landfills. Now, the engineered wood in these cabinets and shelves may be holding more than just groceries. It could be helping to save our natural resources for the next generation.
Every year, America produces 25 million tons of plastic. That's about 10 pounds for every human on Earth. And only 1% gets recycled. We've got to do better than that. Get involved with today's environment today.
You've heard the saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Many environmental experiments fail at first, but with innovation and persistence, new solutions can result. This next segment is a classic example.
Up in the attic. Down in the basement, all over the garage. Cardboard boxes seem to be everywhere. We reuse some of them to store our own things, but far too many end up in the trash. These containers, designed to be stuffed and loaded, often become the fodder that load our landfills to the breaking point. It's hard to imagine cutting down millions of trees only to throw them into a dump, but that's what can happen. These researchers working at Domtar couldn't bear to watch these resources squandered any longer. They launched a research project to develop a way to recycle corrugated cardboard boxes and keep them out of the landfills. After many experiments, they created a process to produce a bleached white pulp that can be used as the sole fiber for high-quality printing and writing papers.
It seems almost incredible that this fine writing paper came from boxes just like these. But the positive effect this could have on the environment is very real.
Not only does this relieve landfills of over 6,000 truckloads of corrugated containers annually, it reduces the need to produce pulp fiber from trees. The crystal process starts with bales of boxes getting dumped into a tank for de-inking and produces about half the solid waste generated by conventional de-inking processes. The filtered and screened recycled pulp must then be bleached. This bleaching chamber uses no chlorine gas. The resulting crystal pulp can then be used to create high-quality printing and writing paper with a texture and brightness comparable to fine papers made from virgin pulp fibers.
To my eyes, I can't tell the difference between these two sheets of paper, but the planet sure can. The pulp used to make this was once growing healthy in a forest, and the raw material used to make this sheet of paper would probably be littering a landfill right now.
The management at Domtar Specialty Fine Papers believe they need to continue to move forward with their environmental efforts. A $61 million project is also currently being implemented, which would treat the wastewater biologically and reduce freshwater consumption. Now that there's a process that can turn these worn-out brown boxes into high-grade paper stock, maybe it's time we start harvesting our landfills. In a moment, on Today's Environment, American utility companies join forces to reduce harmful emissions, plus a new planet-friendly look at sheep next.
If secondhand smoke can annoy a whole room full of people, think about a power plant. Those emissions can affect the entire world. And this next segment features a new idea that may help reduce that problem.
An international border. Humans cannot pass without the proper paperwork. But air pollution needs no passport or visa. From this point of view, all pollution is created equal. The country of origin makes no difference. President Clinton's 1993 Global Climate Change Action Plan faces this fact and encourages utilities and private corporations to look beyond U.S. borders in their efforts to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The response to this voluntary plan came quickly, and a prime target was identified. This city, Děčín in Czechoslovakia, may be one of the most polluted on Earth. That's why 3 American utilities joined forces and chose it as their first project to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This carbon dioxide belching coal-fired heating plant will soon be converted to natural gas, and nearly half of the funds will come from Wisconsin Electric, Edison Development Corporation, and NIPSCO Industries. Each of these utilities will invest $200,000 to help finance the conversion. The devastating air pollution in Děčín can be traced primarily to the low-grade coal burned by this Bínov heating plant. It operates with no air pollution control devices whatsoever. At peak levels, the sulfur dioxide in Děčín's air can register 10 times higher than health standards recommended by the World Health Organization. Compared to the rest of Czechoslovakia, Děčín's child mortality rate is double, respiratory ailments are 60% higher, and life expectancy is 5 years less. Conversion to natural gas and the increased efficiencies of modern equipment will cut emissions of the primary greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, by 65%, and sulfur dioxide emissions will be almost completely eliminated. Wisconsin Electric points to this project as an example where a relatively small foreign investment can produce a much greater environmental gain than a large U.S. investment.
Our company made this investment because we believe it's an opportunity to demonstrate on a voluntary basis that we can invest in energy projects and reduce greenhouse gases and other pollutants on a cost-effective basis.
Participation in these types of efforts will help America earn its share of greenhouse gas reductions under the soon-to-be finalized Earth Summit Treaty. Since harmful gases released anywhere affect us right where we live, waging a borderless war against pollution makes sense no matter what country you come from. Because even if we do live under different flags, we all breathe the same air and share the same earth.
How about some good news? By recycling aluminum cans, in 1 year, Americans saved enough energy to power all the homes in New York City for 6 months. Keep up the good work, recycle, and get involved with today's environment today.
In this land pavilion within Epcot, they explore many innovations, but sometimes the greatest innovations aren't new at all. A good cat can be a great mousetrap. There's few things better than a hungry frog to control mosquitoes. Many animals naturally perform jobs we often give to chemicals and pesticides. This next segment features another example.
This forest is being protected from fire by what may be one of the most awesome environmental weapons at our disposal: sheep. Most of us know how they bring us warm clothes and delicious food, but not many people understand their environmental potential. Sheep love to graze, and their hunger for green leafy weeds could help reduce our appetite for chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides. Since the dawn of time, stories of shepherds and their flocks filled myths, legends, the Bible, and many other historical accounts. Some historians believe the sheep was the first domesticated animal. But this animal, with roots in ancient history, may be the solution to problems high-tech science cannot solve. Sources at the American Sheep Industry Association note many of the ways sheep can offer solutions that baffle modern technology. They're clean, they're natural, they're Mother Earth's choice environmentalist. The grazing by this flock in the Angeles National Forest in California controls and eliminates much of the flammable chaparral and undergrowth that would become fuel in a disastrous forest fire. They create fire breaks that help save forests, wildlife, and even homes. The superabsorbent mats being used to control this oil spill come from sheep's wool. These compressed wool mats can be squeezed out, washed, and used again up to 8 different times. Killington Resort in Vermont contracts a herd of sheep in the summer to prevent undergrowth from taking over slopes and trails. Grazing also plays an important role in reforestation projects. The flocks feast on the weeds and plants that compete with new seedlings. The Canadian government even pays sheep farmers for their flock's help. Their eating habits can increase seedling survival dramatically and eliminate the need for herbicide treatments. When these rapacious woolly flocks are employed on America's rangeland, their selection of stifling weeds improves the grassy menu for other wildlife. Improved wildlife habitat translates into growing populations of elk, moose, bighorn sheep, and antelope. Their insatiable appetite for uncontrollable destructive weeds like leafy spurge and weeds that can be toxic to other animals can make them environmentally and economically preferable to herbicides. Across the nation, flocks of sheep are being contracted by government, private businesses, and even corporate conglomerates to do what they do best: graze. The American Sheep Industry Association cites a sheep's hooves as perfect for aerating the soil for improved seed penetration and water filtration. Plus, the flock naturally recycles its diet into a nutrient-rich fertilizer. Some people think that the dog is man's best friend. Well, maybe so, but this creature could be one of the best friends our environment ever had. Turning waste into glass. It's called vitrification, plus a new way of dealing with toxic substances in our soil. Learn about both next on Today's Environment.
In the year 2000, new landfills could cost over $1 billion. That's a lot of money to spend on a trash can. Maybe this next innovation could offer us a better way to handle our waste.
Pure garbage. On a planet with dwindling resources, Americans sure have plenty of trash. Our homes and businesses generate about 230 million tons of it every single year.
You know, Americans throw away nearly twice as much trash as people in other countries, and the growing rate of landfill closures bears testament to our disposable dementia. Many Americans recognize this problem, and they respond to it by recycling and reducing their waste.
Researchers and engineers like these scientists at Battelle Pacific Northwest Laboratories struggle to meet the challenge of waste disposal with advanced technology. They're developing what may be one alternative to landfills, waste vitrification. That's a big word that provides a huge solution. Vitrification means to turn something into glass. Waste vitrification means just that, to turn waste, our trash, into glass. Vitrification technology was first developed to destroy hazardous and radioactive wastes at various Department of Energy sites. The process seemed so promising, they expanded their thinking to applications that would reduce the stress on landfills. A TerraVit melter processes waste in a high-temperature furnace. At over 1,500 degrees centigrade, the heat melts the waste, destroys hazardous organic material, and converts the molten material into a durable glass. When municipal solid waste melts, the composition becomes very similar to many basalt glasses. These materials possess a high crushing strength and can exist in the natural environment for tens of millions of years. Researchers at Battelle Pacific Northwest Laboratories say that if tests prove successful, ordinary trash that previously could not be recycled could be transformed into premium railroad ties, cobble sidewalks, streets, highway barriers, blasting grit, or even costume jewelry. Plans to build a full-scale version of the process at a working landfill site are underway.
Just imagine if all of our worthless trash could be melted into valuable glass products. It could just melt away our demand for new landfills.
Hopefully we learn by our mistakes. Dealing with past environmental problems has given us a stockpile of weapons and technology. Techniques developed to handle past disasters may help us avoid others in the future, like this next idea.
Snap, crackle, pop. They're no longer just the sounds you hear at the breakfast table. They're some of the noises of what may be a whole new way of destroying contaminants. Toxic substances like chlorinated solvents, PCBs, pesticides, and fuels can contaminate a scenic plot of land. These chemicals can leach through the soil, pollute the groundwater, and harm plant and animal life. Leaky underground storage tanks, barrels, power plants, and other sources cause this type of pollution that requires soil remediation. Currently, many of these sites must be excavated to be cleaned up. This can often destroy the surrounding beauty and create a host of other problems. Researchers at Pacific Northwest Laboratory have discovered a less invasive and cost-effective way to remediate contaminated soil. They developed ERASE, which stands for Electrical Remediation at Contaminant Environments. It consists of an innovative combination of low technology and high technology. First, the low technology, steam. The knowledge of its cleaning power probably dates back to the time right after the discovery of fire. To create steam, a low-voltage current passing through 6 electrodes heats the earth to the boiling point of water. The moisture turns to steam, which rises through the soil and carries the contaminants with it. A venting system channels these vapors into a gas-phase corona reactor, which generates a plasma. That high-energy electrical discharge volatilizes the toxic contaminants and actually decomposes or destroys them. Non-volatile contaminants like PCB-laden transformer oils and pesticides that remain in the soil are decomposed by electrical discharges of approximately 20,000 volts. The products of that decomposition are then drawn through the gas-phase corona reactor. Scientists at Pacific Northwest Laboratory note that this process can be very energy efficient compared to other soil remediation techniques, and it requires no unsightly digging and excavation. A pristine but contaminated area could be cleaned without compromising its surrounding beauty. Initial tests indicate real promise for this system, and if we can decontaminate soil without digging before the contaminants reach the groundwater, well, we may be able to zap potential disasters and turn them into relatively harmless mishaps.
The demand for green products is growing. 40% of respondents in one opinion poll said that they consider it extremely important that a product be environmentally safe. Some companies are reacting to this consumer preference, and now more than ever, environmentally sound products and processes are becoming available. Environmental concerns can be heard when your purchasing power amplifies them loud and clear. I hope this program from Epcot at the Walt Disney World Resort informed you about some of today's ecological questions. Join us again next time when we explore more environmental solutions on today's environment.
Epcot 95 is located at the Walt Disney World Resort near Orlando, Florida. Accommodations provided by the Buena Vista Palace, Walt Disney World Village. If you know of any interesting environmental success stories, call us at 407-997-9800. The preceding program was sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Hair Care. This has been a presentation of 5 Star Productions USA.